Attack, 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 67. And he's a word. The flash given the thousands. Casino boys become champions of 67.
Hello and welcome to episode 74 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your hosts Mark and myself Paul. Joining us tonight we have Terence, Ter161 from our former page to the podcast, www.celticrumours.co.uk. You can also check out all our links to the podcast in the description below. On today's show we'll take a look at yesterday's 3-2 victory over Dundee at Celtic Park, with match analysis and match reaction from the lads. We look at the role of Callum McGregor and what benefits does it actually bring to Celtic when he's sitting in the deep role. And look ahead to the second leg of Bodo Glimt, and we will discuss the 3-1 defeat of the first leg last Thursday and discuss what went wrong and what Ange should do for the second leg going forward. We'll also look through the live shot as the show goes on, so if there's anything you wish for us to do or discuss, please let us know and we'll discuss it. Firstly though, I'll hand off to Mark for the usual shout outs and he'll bring Terence onto the show.
Right, thanks very much Paul. Quick shout outs to usual suspects, Tim Alloy, Rich and his family, the lads in the live chat, Bobby Sutherland, Stubbsy, the Jabra Jobbies. Just still every time I see every time I need to say that out loud, man, it buckles me, so it does. A wee special shout out to a couple of people. I was away out yesterday, you know, Paul, with JFP and his wife. They took me to Skpe a mass. It's called the Schosenstadt. A wee kind of retreat away to see where Celtic's training ground is. Just next to that. And honestly, man, JFP and his wife Eileen, absolutely lovely couple, man. You know what I'm like, Paul, meeting, you know what I mean, mixing with people and that, honestly a great day, pure lovely people, and I was made really, really welcome. And I also got to meet Campsy boy, and oh Paul, you want to see the size of this boy? I swear to God, man, I thought Campsy was like a wee bit, maybe an older guy in that, so I'm like looking about thinking who it could be when I went in. Couldn't see it, and I saw one guy and I thought, is that maybe him? And then it ended as pure man. I mean, I'm 6'2", Paul, still no bad build, but this man mountain came out of me. Are you Mark? And I was like, aye. Campsy boy, I quite a young guy, see maybe about the same age as John, United Island, that age group. Jeez. Bang on as well, honestly, a really lovely guy. And as I said, JFP and his wife Eileen, but really, I can't say much. It gave me a great day out. I really enjoyed it, but there's days, you know, with me, Paul, there's always a catch, and I put my foot in it as usual. You can't take me anywhere. I didn't know whether Eileen was his wife or his daughter, so I had to ask her when we get into the place, you know. And I think she was quite flattered, but I don't think JFP was too impressed when she told him later on. But that's it. I know, man. I know. Jack says the same thing. We lost a sub again, Paul. I don't know who it is. See, when I find out who it keeps going between 5:29 and 5:30, I'm just going to rip their arms off and beat them up with them because it's starting to pee me off a bit.
We'll send Campsy, I know we know.
He's my new backup. Anybody hassles me, I'll be on the phone to him and that. I'll come through here. But if you're not subscribed, please do help us share the pod, and if you remember, hit the like button, and if you know how, please leave a comment. Hail troops. I'll go and get Terence on, Paul.
Celtic 3, Dundee 2, Geomarkers being the main man for Celtic, netting his first hat-trick for the Hoops, scoring on the 34 minutes after Dundee had taken the lead. He got his second on the 26th minute. Celtic looked into the second half, looking to capitalise 2-1 lead, but it was the same old Celtic in the second half, conceding their second goal to a second set piece. Ange rang in the changes, taking off Nida, Hiate and O'Reilly, bringing on Beaton, pushing McGregor into a more forward role, bringing Roger and settling into O'Reilly's position, and bringing Abada onto the left and putting Yotta into his more favourite position on the right. The team looked more settled, I think, with these changes, and they kept pressing to take the lead. Scoring late again seems to be the way of Celtic lately. Abada played well to pass through to Radisson, who played in a fine cross, and Gianmarcus getting ahead of his defender did get his hat-trick on the 86th minute. Celtic hang on to get a 3-2 lead and extend their lead at the top of the table to 3 points after Rangers dropped points in the early kick-off with Dundee United. The shots, the Celtic 19 shots to Dundee's 4 on target. They had 5 to Dundee 2. Possession 82% and 18% to Dundee United. Dundee. Passes 194 to Dundee's 190. 90% accuracy in a pass accuracy. Terence, welcome to the show again, Terence. I think a win's a win, but Mark didn't see the game. I was only could have saw through highlights, but it's not the same Celtic we see kind of just after the winter breakdowns in January. It seems to be kind of a different Celtic we're seeing at the moment, isn't it?
It is indeed, Matt. It is indeed, Paul. Good evening, lads. Hope you're all well. Yes, it's a strange one, Paul, because for me, since the second half of the Aberdeen game, we seem to be a different team. Like, second half of the Aberdeen game.
Terence,
Yeah.
give me 2 minutes, bud. I'm going to hang up and then connect with you again because you're awfully crackly, right?
Okay.
Right, is that better?
Yeah, you there now, Terence?
Yeah, is that any better?
Oh, that's a million times better for me anyway, Terence. Aye, that sounds fine, aye.
Okay, cool. I just think, Paul, since the second half of the Aberdeen game, Celtic have been a different side. I mean, they were, and it just did. We just kind of, I don't know. They seem to be struggling. Even players who weren't struggling seem to be struggling as hard at times. So I don't know. It's got the result, which is the main thing yesterday. But my God, it was hard fought, and you know, at the end of the day, once Rangers got points, it was vital that Celtic won, and thankfully they did.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was looking through the kind of match analysis after the game, through the different sites and stuff like that, and one thing that came to notice me is that we were targeted on the left-hand side yesterday through their goal kicks and their free kicks in around their own area. They clearly target the left-hand side with Hayate and Jovanovic, basically, because they'll be the smallest players on the team in our defensive kind of a role. And I'm going to the point again, Mark, in that Ange clearly should know by now that teams like Dundee United, St Mirren, the bottom league teams, Mark, are going to depend on
Dundee, Paul.
Dundee, like Dundee United as well, Mark. You know, that these teams are looking for points. Any team,
Aye.
That they're going to be looking for set pieces at Celtic because they know it's a weak point, and if they want to get a point off Celtic, they're going to target that. And I'm bringing it back to the point, Mark, we spoke about with Terence on the thing, like how Ange doesn't see the benefits of having scales in and around his defence when he knows teams are going to be lobbing the ball in high and stuff like that. Like it was clear yesterday that was their main chance of a goal. 2 set pieces, Mark, and to be honest, they were bad set pieces. I thought Starfelt and Vickers didn't have their best of games together, and it was a game for Starfelt or even Julian, Mark, or you know, it was definitely a game for Starfelt then, considering how tall he is, Mark. You know.
I've said it before, Paul. I think Skpe should be getting a run of game because I think he's a good enough player as well, Paul. And as you're saying, he adds a good bit of height to the team. And the set pieces, as you're saying, Paul, all these like so-called like smaller teams, that's like they'll be saying this is a way we can like, kind of capitalise against Celtic. But Paul, even your set pieces at the other end are awful.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's just
there's no height.
Aye, but no, I don't know what it is, Paul. We can't seem to defend set pieces and we can't seem to use them to our advantage. I mean, we're saying teams like Dundee and St Mirren will kind of twig onto this and come at us like that. But Celtic, every team in the world should be looking at how to capitalise on like their offensive kind of set pieces. You know, I mean, even great teams through the ages like Barcelona and all these great teams through the ages, Paul, they've all been able to have their own good set pieces, and we just don't seem to be able to come up with any kind of system that allows us to gain anything for it. And at the back, I get, Paul, I've said it to you, even in my wee blethers off the podcast now, Joe Hart needs to come out and command his box a lot better. That's my only kind of gripe with Joe Hart. I don't think I don't know whether I no want to say he's not get the bottle for it, but if your goalkeeper comes out, he's either 9 times out of 10 he's either going to get the ball or he's going to get a foul. Do you get what I mean? That's the kind of way in modern football and that. But I think Joe Hart, I'm not putting all the blame on him. Obviously, as he said, Starfelt and Carter Vickers didn't have their best of games, but Joe Hart's got to kind of take some of the responsibility, in my opinion, for just no command in his area as well when these balls are coming into the box.
Like, if you look at the aerial duels yesterday, of course Celtic were ahead of them, like, but we won 48, but Dundee also won 39, and that was the most a team has ever won aerial duels against us, Mark. You know, so they clearly saw, like, that was it was Mark McGee's game plan, Mark. Like, I presume he's been out of football, he's probably watched Celtic games and stuff like that. He knew exactly
how to come at us,
how to come at us, and what a weak spot that was, like, you know. And it's not just yesterday's game, Mark. We've saw over last season, like we saw our defence getting better with Vickers and Starfelt, but same mistakes are starting to creep in again that we saw over the years at Celtic. Like, we don't seem to be learning.
And that's the strange thing as well, Paul, because it's not just a problem under Ange, it was a problem under Lennon. And if you think back as well, Paul, it was a bit of a problem under Brendan Rodgers as well.
So I'm going to I'll go to Terence first and then I'll come to you, Marcus. I was thinking of it today, and my question is, I'm just putting this out there, like, is it because we have the same coaching staff there as John Kennedy, Steve Woods, McManus is kind of new, but he's been in and around the Celtic squad as well for the last couple of seasons. And if Terence Ange brought in a new member of staff, you know, and just into the coaching team, like, I'm working in sales now for 16 years, and I go into shops, and I'm in shops, we say, once every 2 weeks, and I'm seeing the same layout of shops every 2 weeks, Terence, you know. But if my manager comes down, he'd point something else out. But Terence got disconnected, Mark.
Oh, yeah, has he? I'll go and get him back on there now.
You there, Terence?
Yeah, hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So, Terence, I was just saying there that with the set pieces and what we seem to be conceding the same goals as last season and kind of before that, and is it down to kind of our existing coaching staff being there, the likes of John Kennedy, Steve Woods, McManus, and there's a few that are in part of the coach team, and I've been working in sales for 16 years, and I go into shops every 2 weeks and I'm saying the same layout of the shops, but if my manager comes down to me, he points something out that I didn't see. And my point is that if Ange brought in not necessarily people are saying we need a defensive coach. Like, I don't know.
So you're the
Like,
you're the John Kennedy the firm then, Paul.
Yeah, but
You're no
like,
see.
yeah, I'm not saying. But I'm saying, like, new eyes coming into the coaches that are from not within Celtic, like, because they're in the system, like, but outside Celtic, like, for Ange to bring in, like, and maybe he sees that we're doing wrong, that maybe our coaching staff kind of don't see or something. Do you get me? You know?
Yeah. But the thing about it is, Paul, we're probably worse offensively than we are defensively. We don't score headers. I can't tell you when we scored a header, Paul. You know, we've never, like the two centre halves probably haven't scored all season. You know, so I mean, we're defensively we're conceding the same. Like, as soon as it's a free kick, you're going, oh God. Like, the first goal yesterday that Dundee scored was nearly nigh on a replica to the Aberdeen goal, the first Aberdeen goal, in the sense that it was O'Reilly and Hatate at the back post, and your man Mullen just ran off Giamakis. He didn't follow him, and the two boys were at the back post, and they didn't know what. One didn't know whether I should go, you should go. It was like the way Ramirez ran off one of the boys for the Aberdeen goal. And I have to be honest, I think at this stage, from corners, Celtic have to put someone on the post. You know, let Joe Hart cover the post that's the corner's coming from, but just have someone on the other post, because it's becoming like we were reasonably solid lately, but since the second half of the Aberdeen game, they've shipped seven goals in 3 meaningful games. I'm not going to count the Reds Rovers game with the greatest respect, but 2 against Aberdeen the second half, 3 against Bodo Glimt, and 2 again yesterday. Like, Celtic aren't going to score 3 goals in every game if they keep conceding 2 goals. It's just not going to happen. Eventually, your luck is going to run out. Like, you know, and they need to find a way of solving the problem, and it should be solvable, Paul. It's not like it's becoming a little bit silly at this stage that it's like a free kick outside the box, and you hold your breath going, oh my God, is this like a penalty? Because as soon as it goes into the box, you're thinking, and I agree with what Mark said a while ago, maybe not necessarily yesterday, but on certain other occasions, Joe Hart needs to come and help the defenders. Joe Hart needs to claim the ball.
We're looking, we kind of saw the same thing last season with our keepers as well. Like, we saw Bain and Barkas not coming off their lines either to claim the ball. I mean, is this a Stephen Woods thing, or?
I know I asked that question a couple of months ago as well, Mark or Paul, because for me the prime example of that one was the Hibs goal in the cup final, the League Cup final. Like, I mean, the ball was in the air forever, and when you and when your man Paul O'Halloran headed the ball, he was inside the 6-yard box, and Hart was still on his line. I asked that question, would he not, or has he been told not to come off his line? But you can't imagine a fella like Joe Hart is told stay on your line, because if we're so bad at defending crosses, it would surely make sense that a guy as big and as tall as him, who can use his hands obviously, that he'll come and try and make some contact. And more times than not, Paul, if anyone makes contact with a keeper, or the keeper, the referee gives a free out. You know, so I mean, I don't know. It's a worrying stat that Dundee yesterday, when they got the ball and they were whipping it in, your kind of heart was in your mouth, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Brian talking about it there on the
zone of marking, the zone of marking.
I was waiting Terence finishing to bring that up as well. I was speaking about this with John and Campsey yesterday, Paul, and I can't get my head around why they do this. I mean, I know it's all kind of meant to be this modern thing and that, but a bit of grass isn't going to score a goal against you. So why is the player marking just like a section of the park?
Mark, like, especially with Celtic, considering we're not the tallest team, and why would you do zonal marking when you're not the tallest team, and when they already have a height advantage over you anyway?
I mean, but when Barry's on, even Barry talks about it, they were told you're at set pieces and corners and that you're picking up X player. So they knew, but do you get what I mean? That's like a few years ago now, but why did it change? When did it actually change to go to this man? That, like,
I think it was Barcelona.
And then it's Terence saying, I know, not putting people in the post. For me, that's kind of But for me, that's like a schoolboy
Basic
kind of.
sense, yeah.
Aye, it's one of the first kind of things you kind of learn if you're a defender.
Mhm.
And it's like you said there, Mark, and I've said it here before as well. I have yet to see Space score a goal.
Mhm.
I've seen loads of men score a goal. I've yet to see Space score a goal.
Aye, that's what I'm saying. Or a bit of grass. And aye.
Mark, what do you think? What we were just saying there, like with Terence, like it's not the first time we didn't see our keepers coming out claiming the ball. Like, could this be a coaching thing like that?
Well, I don't know, Paul,
There's
because, unless this is something Ange has come up with, I wouldn't put it down to Stevie Woods because, well, look at Big Fraser Forster, Paul.
And to be fair, like,
and he
Joe
kind of.
Hartman isn't far off Fraser's Foster's height, I believe.
Aye.
Say, do you know what I mean?
And fair dues, Fraser Forster was probably a bigger build, but as I said in Terrence's, 9 times out of 10, the keeper will either get it or there'll be a foul on the keeper and it's a breaking play. And I mean, well, Stevie Woods he made Fraser Forster, really, didn't he? I mean, he was only a young lad when he came here, so he's kind of learned a lot of his goalkeeping for his time at Celtic. And Fraser Forster was confident to coming out for the ball or that. It's really a strange one why Hart, with his experience in that, you would think he would know. You know what I mean? You think he'd know himself that ball's coming in. That's mine. Do you get what I mean?
In your 60-yard box, Mark. Do you know what I mean? That's your ball.
But even if you ever, sorry, Paul, even if you ever watch them training and warming up before a game, the amount of times you watch the keeper and say Stevie Woods or someone is putting in crosses and they're coming out and collecting the cross.
Mm-hmm.
So it
They're
doesn't
practicing it, like, yeah, exactly.
it doesn't make sense to me that they're practicing it 15, 20 minutes before they go on the pitch. And then when they go on the pitch, it's like, okay, I'm not going to come for any ball. Because I can't remember, and I'm not trying to be critical of Joe Hart, but I can't remember any time I've seen ball whipped in and Joe Hart comes flying out and catches it and then goes for the quick throw. Amongst people, yeah, he takes a ball that's coming into, but like a high ball, like a fielded like a Gaelic footballer, Paul, or something like that, and throwing it out. I can't remember seeing Joe Hart do that. Like,
but even if he's not going to catch it, like, fist it, you know what I mean? Like, get your knuckles on the ball, Terence, you know what I mean?
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's like I said, Paul, if you come out and you're a goalkeeper and you're in that situation, and there's forwards attacking you, and you're going to punch, all the keeper has to do is make some contact with the ball and make a big loud scream and hands flying in the air. 9 times out of 10, the referee's going to give a free kick out.
When I was in goal, like, that was blatant to me, Mark. The 6-yard box is my area for crosses. The chances are that I wasn't getting them anyway because I'm so small. Do you know what I mean? It was my area.
But that's what That's basically what goalkeepers get taught into, Paul. That's their domain, that bit of the park, and anything that comes in there is theirs, kind of thing.
And you clear house, like if a keeper comes, he takes everything. He takes if he takes his own defender and the forward with him, and the ball's there and he goes for the ball. Like, it's very rare you'll see a keeper pulled for something like that. It's more than likely the forward's going to be pinged for free out. And I don't know. I just think they're putting massive pressure on themselves because, you know, they seem to be struggling. Not just the centre halves. As a team, we seem to be struggling with crosses. It's not fair just to put it on the two centre halves.
No. Like, I have it kind of written down later on to show what I think is kind of going on as well. Mark, of course, G. Marcus got a hat trick yesterday. I think every Celtic fan was delighted for him because of the shift he put in since the winter break. I think that's 5 goals now he scored so far, and not just the goals yesterday, Mark, but his all-round play. What he's doing up front, you know, he's non-stop running, he's tracking down, he's doing the high press, he's doing everything that Ange wants him to do, and for him to get a hat-trick yesterday, I'm delighted for the guy, you know, it's what he needed.
I'm delighted as well, Paul. I've been really impressed with him over the last few weeks, Paul, really. Look, even when it looks like a totally different player, Paul, for one we caught a few wee glimpses early in the season, but as Ange said as well, he had no pre-season training, and that's I'm not saying it's a good thing, but maybe the injuries kind of gave him the chance, you know what I mean, to put in some extra hours in the training in the gym, because Jimmy ripped his toe, Paul, for get some physique on him, hasn't he?
You know, and you know what impresses me about G. Marcus now, Terence, is that when we watched the Livingston game there last season, and we were complaining about him because he was the striker that we wanted to be, that we were putting crosses in, and he was the striker to be there, like an out-and-out striker to be in the box, a box striker. And he wasn't getting in those positions against Livingston. He, as Mark said there, like he was maybe not up to scratch and stuff like that, but he's getting into the box now, feeding off these second balls in the right spot at the right time, and he's doing what basically we heard of him that he was doing in the Dutch league.
Oh, yeah, 100%, Paul. But and his attitude is first class. But it's also going back to the thing that impressed me most about him is, and I've said it on the podcast previous, is that this is a guy that stayed to train when everyone went away. Because he knew he was short of fitness, he knew he was short of stuff, and for me that speaks volumes for the man. Yeah,
it paid off in terms, like, didn't it?
Well, it does, because he knew himself, Paul. He wasn't going to get a start on the team. If I just keep myself in the same condition and I'm picking up these niggle injuries, I'm not going to get a start. Instead, he stayed for 2 weeks and trained and burst the gut, and now look at him. It's a completely different player, like Mark said, to the one that we saw there a couple of months ago. And you mean it's all credit to him. And the one thing you would definitely say on yesterday's performance, he's definitely your guy inside the 6-yard box. I mean, all the 3 goals, like real poacher goals, like.
I've said that. I've said that. He reminds me a bit of like Gary Hooper. Even Lee Griffiths, he's always in there to go. I mean, Terence is saying he's like an old-fashioned poacher kind of thing. It's the kind of goals he's scoring, and I think he'll just go from strength to strength for us now. I really do.
I think, Mark, he's the way Celtic play and the amount of shots we've been goal, the chances are like that, rebounds and stuff like that. He's the type of striker we need. You know, that's going to be in and around the box, poacher, like looking for these second balls, Mark, you know.
And I said it as well, Paul, see the team that started yesterday, that should have been the team that started on Thursday night. We come to Thursday night. But Terence, I spoke to you about it, and there's something you touched on there, like since the Aberdeen game, it doesn't seem the fast free flowing we saw the derby against Rangers, like that first 45 minutes was the fastest I ever saw a Celtic team playing. But ever since then, it seems to be, it's still fast, it's still a high tempo, but it seems to be kind of more laboured, more slow, or is it more controlled of the ball, or you know?
Yeah, well, it's like you said though, Paul. For me, you had the Rangers game. The Motherwell game after that was absolutely sensational football for 90 minutes. Then you had 45 minutes against Aberdeen, which was brilliant. And since the Aberdeen game, the second half of the Aberdeen game, it's like someone turned a different switch. It's like Aberdeen was second half was poor. The Wraith Rovers game was poor. Bodo Glimt one, basically Bodo Glimt played like Ange wants Celtic to play. They showed them how to play that fast-flowing football. And then even yesterday against Dundee, you know, I mean, they got the job done, but it's I agree with you, it's not the quick, fast-flowing, dynamic football. It looks a lot slower and a lot more. There's a lot more touches than
because I'm seeing that kind of you can see in the pass rate, like the passes that we seem to be getting up now into the 800s to 900 amount of passes. So we're having a lot of the ball, but we're not using the ball as fast as we've used to be. Do you know?
Yeah. Well, the thing I would say to Paul as well is sometimes stats can be misleading. You know, like where I would be more inclined to look at it and say is, okay, how many passes were, you know, forward passes going forward in the opposition half. Because a lot of times I don't want to say back to the Lennon because it's not like that, but at times sometimes it can be the pass over back, while the opposition is just moving left and right. You know, so sometimes having 800 passes or whatever, it can be misleading. But you mightn't be doing an awful lot with the ball.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we have the passes, but it's what we're doing with it. Like, do you know what I mean? What we do with these passes, like we don't seem to be opening up.
No, and that's huge. If you looked at especially the first half in the Bodo Glimt, the speed that they got the ball out from their back, their midfield to their forwards was so, like, their first notion was to get the ball and go forward and pass forward. That's what we were doing, but we seem to have kind of gone back a little bit to kind of a little. It seems to be certainly a bit slower. I take into consideration conditions yesterday weren't great with everything, and that's fair enough. But just in the last 2 or 3 games, I fully agree with you, Paul. It doesn't seem to be we don't seem to be playing at the same pace we were up to this first half of the Aberdeen game. For me, everything after that seems to be a lot slower.
Look, you noticed as well, Mark, in the last couple of games, we don't seem to be as fast as we were. Like Terence was saying there, like the Rangers game and the Motherwell game, we just blew the teams off the park. But no, we don't seem to be. It seems more slower, or like are the players tiring, Mark? Do you think, or?
Well, maybe people. I mean, they've played a lot of games.
It's their first season under Ange as well.
Aye, and we've got to remember, like Japanese players, Paul, they've not had a break.
No.
Which I think as we get longer into the season, I know Ange has come out and says, I'll not be resting players and things like that, but I think sort of maybe the Japanese players will need a bit of a rest as the season's going on between now and the end. It's a hard one. We can't play. We've said that the first half in the Glasgow derby, man, the football we played was absolutely just fantastic. But we'd love to play like that every week, Paul. But it's not going to happen, really. But it's hard to put your finger on why we do seem to. It's a setting half into it. We never really keep it up for the full 90 minutes, kind of thing.
Motherwell was the only game, Mark, that I can recall that they basically changed 3 or 4 subs at half time, and the pace never dropped. The first half of the Motherwell, they I know it only finished 4-1, but it could have been 10-0 for the 10-0 only for their Motherwell keeper. But we were brilliant in the first half of Motherwell, and Ange took off McGregor and I think Abada and someone else, and he brought on 2 or 3 others, and the pace never stopped, the accuracy, and that's the one game this year that stands out in my head that from start to finish they went hell for leather, and they could have battered Motherwell that day in that game. But the only thing is I would say though is as well, Mark, is I know what you're saying about some of the Japanese lads and stuff like that, but we've now got a strong squad, and we now can use 5 subs. These fellas, if there is a case for argument's sake, if they think Hitat is getting a bit tired or O'Reilly's getting a bit tired, there's no harm in going, okay, look, I'm not going to play him today, because I certainly think yesterday for me in B-time came on, he made a massive difference. He made, and defensively, because I think as well in the last 3 or 4 games, because we seem to be slow.
You're skipping ahead.
I know, but because the pace has been so slow, I don't think that pace suits McGregor in that role. Whereas Beaton in that role, it's a bit different. He's a bit more defensively minded. I don't know.
Mark, before we move on to that, Terence has always kind of jumped ahead. Terence will get a different topic next week to sort out. Don't worry about that. Mark, a win's a win.
That's
how it is. It doesn't matter what the scoreline is. The points are still the same. 3 points. It was vital that Celtic won this game, considering that Rangers drew 1-1 with Dundee United, and they dropped points, because the pressure was on us, Mark, to get to, and we did it, and it opens up a gap, and it's now what I'm looking at, is that Rangers could be crumbling here, Mark. Do you know what I mean? They're not going. I think looking at, they're not taking this pressure too well, as we saw, Rangers in the past, Mark. They don't take pressure well.
No, and when Bronkhurst came in, he's not really. I mean, the 3 guys that they brought in January, none of them started the game yesterday for them, did they?
Well, you take the 2, Mark. These aren't his players.
No.
Maybe these players don't suit Brian Bronkhurst.
I mean, I mean, they were effective under Jared. They weren't a good team. They weren't a good team to watch or that under Jared, but they were effective under Jared, Paul. And as I said to you, I said it before the derby when I saw the fact that the Rangers fans they were talking about how Van Bronckhorst is stoked like Tavernier or however you pronounce it, like pushing forward and overlap and things like that. And then mind we noticed that in the derby match, and I said that's exactly what the Rangers fans were moaning about. Tavernier still getting pinned back too much and things like that. So I mean, I still rate Van Bronckhorst as a coach, Paul. I really do, but I don't think he's got. It's just there's that much going on at Rangers. There's players coming out of contract. Are they going to? They're refusing to sign new contracts and things like that. It's just. I don't know if I'm not going to say they'll crumble, Paul. It's such, but
even like Mark, even with their.
I think any
fans are going to be on their backs.
I think any kind of level-headed Rangers fan, if you could find somewhere, would admit that they're struggling and that Celtic's like well in the driving seat for the league this year.
I think Terence, looking at it now, like it's practically Celtic's to throw away, and it'd be a big must, I say, for Celtic to throw it away. But there is concerns, like you said there, Terence, like that our luck could run out. Like if we concede 2 goals, like we're not going to score 3 goals every game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. But to be honest, Paul, I think both sides are going to drop points. I'll be very surprised if Celtic and Rangers go through without dropping any more points, because just the games are that are there, especially our away games. There's like our next
tough games,
3 or 4 away games is like Hibs, Livingston, Dundee United, Rangers. I mean, all tough games, like very tough away games. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's going to be like if they go through it without dropping points, it'll be fantastic. But I hope they do. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a slip up on both sides dropping points. To be honest, still there's a long way to go in this yet. Like but it's Celtics to lose. They know what they have to do.
I think the Livingston game out of the ones you've just said there, Terence. I think that'll be our hardest game out of them.
It'll be a nightmare. That could be a nightmare of a game, Matt. You know what I mean? And look, as I said there last week as well, when the split comes in.
When is that split coming in, actually, Terence?
33 games, and then they do the split. But it's going to be very interesting to see who Celtic are going to be playing in that, and who the likelihood is they're going to have to play away for a third time. That will be very interesting to see.
So, the last few games, I've been watching the role of Callum McGregor. You know, like, this isn't no criticism or anything like that, because I'm a great fan of Callum McGregor, but it's an observation that I've been looking at him. And in the last few games, Celtic we've lost the midfield battle basically since the Rangers game with McGregor in a more deeper role, replacing Bison or Gucci or even McCarthy, players who know this defensive role. And as Terence was saying there, when the tempo is slow, it doesn't seem to dislose Callum McGregor. After Ange made the changes yesterday, bringing Bison on and pushing McGregor up to a more offensive role, and because of Bison came in, we controlled the game more, and out of the 10 duels that Bison had, we won all 10. Creating passes, getting the ball back, and moving the ball quickly. Like, my thing here was, Mark, like that. Why have we signed Gucci, and why do we have James McCarthy and Bison in our squad when it's clear to me anyway that in certain games Callum McGregor is not the man to play that role. Now, in the Bobo Glimt game, the formation was 4-2-3-1, so he had O'Reilly in there, and it was kind of the same yesterday. Like, why aren't we playing Bison or a Gucci or a McCarthy in this role when it's clearly we need a defensive midfielder in that role that, like, Callum McGregor, Mark, realistic, Mark, is not a defensive midfielder. He's a more, what would you call him, a creative
A playmaker,
midfielder.
Paul. He's
Yeah,
a kind of,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like the pivot, isn't he? He's like the central
like a
pivot that
yeah,
controls
the pivot,
everything,
yeah,
aye.
pivot, yeah.
And as you says, Paul, if Ange, it's usually a 4-3-3 that he plays in. If you're playing that, McGregor isn't that kind of physical player. He's no, do you know what I mean? He'd say maybe, but then if we're going back to you're going to have to play a 4-2-3-1 to put somebody next to him in there. So it's something that maybe Ange's going to need to kind of look at where actually.
Because, like, going to what we were just talking about, like, that we look laboured in some matches, Mark, and stuff like that. And I think it could be down to that fact, Mark, that we actually don't have a defensive midfielder in the team to break up.
See, I don't see. I mean, Beaton's another player that's had a pure renaissance under Ange and that. I'm not faulting him, but I don't think he's kind of ideal for what Ange is looking for, Paul. Do you know?
Gucci, man. He signed Gucci for a reason. If you looked at Gucci over in Japan, and when I spoke about him, I told you the reason Ange signed him, that his job was to break up the play and move the ball fast. That's all he did in Japan, and that's what Ange saw him, and that's how he suited Ange's style of play. Break the ball up, move the ball fast. When the ball's in the opposition side, he's the first player to attack the ball. You know, but like it just doesn't make sense to me, like, why we went out and bought a player when we're not using him. Do you know what I mean? When it's clearly he's the player that Ange kind of spotted, Mark, to suit this role. Because I was saying it for weeks, Mark, before we even signed Gucci, that I was highlighting the lad Mida for Yokohama, that this was the player that Ange needed for his Ange ball to click. He needed this one player, and he rectified Gucci as this one player that Celtic needed. And no, he doesn't seem to be playing, like, and it's something that we really missed. Like, we missed a tackler in that midfield area. Something that
he's still coming back from injury as well, Paul, isn't he?
He's only back, like that.
So maybe that's played a bit of a part in it.
Could, like, going forward, like, I think it's definitely needed, Mark, that we have to have like that. Strain Love Doctor saying Gucci was in the first team straight away, Mark. Do you know what I mean? So
and then
clearly, like, Mark,
his ankle injury against Alloa, so you've got, maybe that's why he's not been. He's still kind of finding his feet after
and
that.
I think, Mark, it's because we don't have that specific player that we're losing these midfield battles again. And it's quite obvious, like, that we're losing these battles.
The job of a job is, that's what I was going to say to you. Where do you move McGregor in the team? Do you change the full formation?
We have to change the formation, Mark. What he did with Bodo Glimt, Mark, is they did a 4-2-3-1. Like, do we go with that formation and not go to 4-3-3? You know?
But if you're going for
and then Callum McGregor, Mark, then moves into that forward role, and Gucci's your holding midfielder, and it frees up Callum McGregor, Mark. Then
so where are you going to play? And like the number 10 cam role, put McGregor up.
He's sitting next to Gucci, Mark, in the centre, like he did with Callum McGregor.
Him and the two, him and Gucci are the two.
Yeah, like he did with, like Lenny did with Skpe Brown, but we saw last year that Skpe Brown he was covering for Skpe Brown, but no, he doesn't have to do that, Mark, and we'll be able to see Callum McGregor in his natural role, Mark, as dictating our play, Mark, as you said, what Callum McGregor should be doing, dictating the way Celtic play. But if he's playing the defensive role, Mark, Callum McGregor is not able to do that, because he's going to be watching other players around him to watch where the ball goes and watch their runners. Do you get me? You know?
I know what you mean. I don't see Ange I don't see Ange changing things that drastically, Paul. I really don't.
Mm-hmm. But the only thing about it though, Mark, is I agree with what Paul's saying. It's worth a shot to maybe push McGregor into the number 8 role get a genuine six there, because the biggest glaring thing that I could see from especially the Glimt game was Rogic and O'Reilly were caught ahead of the ball on so many occasions, and when they broke, we basically had McGregor trying to defend. The boys were not getting back. They're not defensively minded to get back. So all of a sudden it was like McGregor and Bodo Glimt were screaming forward. And as classy and as good as a player of McGregor is,
he's not a tackler. Like
no, he's not. He's not a tackler. He's not a defensive minded player in that sense. You know what I mean? I think as well, Mark, a lot of it comes down to the fact that if Celtic are playing at a really, really high tempo, like they did against Rangers, like they did against Bovril, like they did for long periods of time, McGregor, it suits, because Celtic have so much ball and the ball has been moved so quickly. Celtic are always on the attack. The opposition are continually pushed back. But in games where we are under a little bit more pressure and we're on the offensive a bit more, and you've got O'Reilly and you've got like Rogic, which the two of them clearly show that they can't play together.
It's like Tobin and Rogic, Terence, isn't it?
Yeah, you're all of a sudden you're leaving McGregor to try and do that midfield role of defending by himself, and it's a very, very hard thing to do unless you're a very, very specific player like
Lewis Ferguson.
Oh yeah, big time.
I mean, John,
like that,
we were talking about that yesterday.
Well, like 2 seconds there. You're on about Ferguson, and I hear a lot of Celtic fans saying they want to sign Ferguson and things like that, but we have a player who we haven't seen who could be as good as Ferguson if given the chance, but he doesn't seem to be given the chance. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Gucci. Like, I saw this fella Gucci, Mark. I've watched him. I saw his replays when I did the report on him. Like, this is the player that Ange wanted to do this role. And, like, fair enough, he got injured and stuff like that, but why hasn't Beaton come in when Beaton is a similar player? And, like, that's basically my criticism of Ange, like, is that why are we playing without no defensive midfielder when the Scottish League is so physical, like, do you know what I mean?
But I think it suits. That's a fair point, Paul. But that's fine when Celtic are flying it. When we're flying it and we're playing at a really high tempo, we'll probably get away without a defensive midfielder, like we have been. Some of the games, the Motherwell game, the Rangers game, a lot of the other games when Celtic are playing quick passing movement, McGregor was able to sit in that role and spray the balls left and right. We didn't necessarily need the defensive side of things. But it showed up glaringly obvious against Bodo Glimt that we do when we go to like the European level, or again the Aberdeen game, the second half of the Aberdeen game, we got completely outmuscled. I remember Mark mentioned that, and we certainly did in that Bodo Glimt game. They completely outmatched us in midfield. They won the midfield battle, and it's like we said on here a million times. If you win the midfield battle, you're likely to win the game. It's so hard to win a game and lose the midfield battle. I don't care what level it is at, and it makes a massive difference. And we're struggling against some of these sides that we should be struggling against.
Like, the big question is, Terence, right? Is Callum McGregor's best one, and we've seen it for Scotland. Like, Callum McGregor, I think he plays unbelievable for Celtic. Don't get me wrong and stuff like that. But when we see him for Scotland, we see Callum McGregor in a more forward role. He's playing centre midfield, but he's the midfielder mostly that's going forward. You know, like, is that Callum McGregor's best role?
The number 8 position. Get a genuine 6 in there, whichever it be, whether it be Beaton, McCarthy, or Gucci, whichever one, and put McGregor just one forward. And then there's plenty of other options that can then come in with McGregor, whether it's O'Reilly, whether it's Rogic, whether they want to put Hatate beside him. Obviously, they've got a multitude of talent that they can pick from there. But they need to start looking and going, okay, they're starting to leak goals where they weren't before. We just need to be a little bit more careful that we're not leaving ourselves short in that position. And I'd agree with you that they need to maybe bring in a genuine 6. And I certainly think this week for the Bodo Glimt game, they have to have a genuine 6. If they start with the same kind of formation of McGregor, O'Reilly, whether it be Rogic or someone like that, they're going to tear them apart again, like. And that's my fear. And listen, if Celtic don't go through in the conference thing, fair enough. What about it? But it's worth if Gucci or Beaton are fit, start one of them. Start one of them and see, and move McGregor up to the number 8, because I've seen people even on the forum saying that McGregor hasn't contributed much to goals, or he hasn't contributed much to setting up.
But that's because it's very hard if he's sitting there, if he's the line midfielder terms. You get me?
And that's what I said. That's what I said to the person as well, Paul. I said that exact thing, because if McGregor goes up, and O'Reilly's up, and Hatat is up, or Rogic is up, whoever's there, then you've got no defenders.
I just thought like what you were saying, like when Beaton came on yesterday, it just seemed to be more of a balance in the midfield area when Beaton came on and McGregor pushed up more. There was a more balanced in the team terms. You know what I mean? It just looked more suited to where Celtic wanted to play. You know.
It did. It looked a lot more suited, Paul. But it also, you have to remember, it's a player playing a position he's very, very comfortable in. And I said this before, Beaton isn't the quickest, but he's brilliant at reading the game. But that's like making a tackle, like.
But like that's down to terms what you were saying. Like it's a player who knows that role. He anticipates the play of the ball from where he's playing, because he played there for his career, like. And if you're trying to make Callum McGregor into that defensive role, it's very hard for him to anticipate the game.
Yeah, you know? It's like what was said, Paul. You can bring McGregor back into that whole midfield role. That's fine, but McGregor's never going to be a good tackler. So you can bring he can go back there all he wants, but he's never going to be a good tackler. You know what I mean? I'm not comparing him now before anyone says anything. Like a Paul Scholes, he can go back and sit there, but he's not a very good tackler. Whereas
That's exactly type of player McGregor is. Darren says Paul Scholes couldn't tackle for toffee. Half the time,
and the one who stepped back, and Scholes was the one who.
But see the thing about it as well, and I don't know, Scholes did. He had a wee bit of a nasty streak in him as well, and I don't think McGregor. Sometimes you see it coming out, but it's no very often kind of thing. But Scholes had that kind of nasty, kind of tenacity about him as well. But he wasn't very good at tackling. Most of his tackles probably end up bookings, probably, if you look back on it. And I think McGregor's the same type. Every time
we saw that against Rangers, Matt, there a couple of seasons back when he made a tackle down by the box and he got sent off.
Aye, every time he gets in for kind of tackles, something always in the back of your mind that he could maybe end up getting a booting here, or even worse. It's just, as Turner says, he's not that kind of defensive mid, like that kind of just tackle and win the ball. And Beaton's good at doing what he does, but he's not. For me, he's not good enough to play the role of like the pivot, the playmaker. Beaton can't do that.
No, I'd agree he couldn't, Mark. But they got to try and find a way where, even if it is the case that Beaton is the sitting role, and like even a few times yesterday when he done it, he got it, and all he done was literally a 10-yard pass. He got rid of it straight away to whether it was Jota or O'Reilly or McGregor himself. He's Beaton as soon as I watched him, he made a quick tackle. He turned and literally go, McGregor, there you go, it's yours. You do what you have to do. I'm waiting here, like. You know. So
I just think
they have to manage
Mark, like Ange needs to think. I know we spoke it and he stuck the way he plays the game, but Mark, like, if you're changing the formation, the way you play still stays the same. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're putting a defensive midfielder in alongside Callum McGregor and letting Callum McGregor have that number 9 role, number 8 role, Mark, to push up and have your defensive midfielder there, well then your formation really isn't changing. You're just giving Callum McGregor more freedom to move forward, you know.
I mean, Callum McGregor. If you think back, Paul, Callum McGregor was when he was younger. He was like your number 10 kind of thing. He was, arriving late in the box to score goals and things like that. And he did, well, obviously Disney did that now, he's playing further back. I see me actually sit down and think, Paul, it's, see for the players and the personnel that we've got, and if Ange is going to stick to like his 4-3-3, it's hard to actually, obviously we've said it before, he's going to pick like put the 4 defenders and Joe Hart, and McGregor's going to start at the game, but going forward I think Ange needs to look at how actually efficient he is in there.
You know, because
if he would be better served somewhere else.
Yeah, because Mark.
Could McGregor do a box-to-box role? Because I've said to you, Paul, I think Ange's way of thinking is he sits there with like a holding midfielder, which deep line playmaker, whatever you want to call them. He sits there, and the other 2 midfielders are like you're playing with 2 number 8s, 2 box-to-box kind of midfielders.
And that's why we lost. Like, we move on to Bovril, like, that's why we kind of struggled against Bovril, because
Rogic didn't do the box-to-box, so he stays up.
And O'Reilly, Mark, didn't have the legs really to do that roll out, because he was getting caught out of possession. We move on from Callum McGregor. So Celtic travel to Norway on Thursday to face Bodo Glimt in our second leg Conference League knockouts. Of course, we trailed 3-1 from the first leg. But before we talk about the game on Sunday, we'll talk about what actually went wrong in the first leg. I was looking at things I'm going to put down poor midfield shape. Our recovery decisions were all wrong. Our midfield cover was wrong. Like example that was saying, no beat on. Wrong defensive decisions. Taylor, I thought, made mistakes, Mark, that we saw last season with Taylor making. Ange's decisions, what you were just talking about there, O'Reilly and Rogic didn't work, especially the high press side of it. Just was non-existent. It was like the start of the season watching Turnbull and Rogic play. You know, just 2 similar players in that do the exact same things, and there was no high press there. But the plus side from the first leg is, as what Callum McGregor said in his pre-match match conference, he said that we conceded silly goals, and we know we conceded goals. We have to work in that, but we created a lot of chances in that game, but we didn't take our chances. In the second half, we need to create these chances and take them, Mark. You know what I mean? We need to take them. And Mark, I come to you first because, like, fair enough, Bodo Glimt were a good team and a well-organised team, Mark, but I'm going to put down to the fact again, Mark, that they're not to get along. But they looked well-organised, Mark, and I think they did a lot of study on Celtic. They had time to study Celtic. And did Ange get the selection wrong, Mark, or what happened in the first leg, do you think?
Well, I definitely think Ange get the team selection wrong, Paul, right from the get-go. I said, Paul, I thought Celtic would have easily seen them off. I had so much ego in my face on the forum after the way I was going on about it all day, but I just still can't believe it, Paul, that we did. I mean, they're 6 weeks off away for their season starting, and it looked as if they were. I mean, they looked fitter than we did. And then they went to this 2-week training camp over in Spain. We'll see the best thing Ange can do. Ask them where they were, and that's where we're going every summer from now on. I mean, we've used it as ourselves an excuse, Paul. These qualifiers come too early for us and stuff like that. I mean, that's a team that were 6 weeks away from their season starting, and they ran over the topies. For me, that's the biggest blot on Ange's copybook so far, Paul. I was really, really disappointed with that performance the other night. You know that yourself. I really didn't. For the next day or that, I never really even said much about it because I really couldn't believe it. And I wouldn't say that honestly, Paul, I wouldn't say that they're that great a team. I really wouldn't.
And you know what?
Just one of the I've spoke about it from the start at the podcast and that, Paul. They were just one of these kind of well-drilled, well-organised teams at Celtic. Again, we're talking about set pieces. Just for years, we just seem to struggle against these teams. Just
going by that again, Mark, and in terms of, I'll get your opinion on this again. It's about Bodo again identified Celtic's left-hand side as a weak link in height, and their attack and high balls were aimed at O'Reilly
They were a big. They were kind of your typical Scandinavian team, weren't they? Big muscles.
We hired this new data pal that's gone in. I get his name and I talked, but his role, as Ange said as well, Mark, is he's going to scout our opposition. Now, if I'm a scout, Mark, and I'm scouting my opposition, you're going to see that Bovril players are nearly 6 foot odd, 6 foot thing. And I'm going back to the fact, Mark, is then like that. We have a player 6'7" on the bench in scales, 6'5" or something like that. And I just can't get to the fact, Mark, when we're playing physical teams like Bobo Dundee the other day, Livingston, teams with a big thing, why he's not getting any looking. You know, when it's clearly that height is a big problem when we play physical teams. You know?
Paul, it's a problem against any team, to be honest, Paul. If you've got your team, you've got a lack of height.
Like I'm going to play Livingston, Mark. This game you're on about there, like is coming up soon away to Livingston. You know for a fact Livingston are going to put in the high ball. Do you know what I mean?
But no, it'll be big physical kind of things, that kind of approach again. I'm still stuck for one, Paul, trying to explain how I feel about that game the other night. I really am.
But Bodo Glimt, Paul, they out-Celtic.
But that's what I'm saying, Terence. They did their research on us, and it looks like that Celtic didn't do their research. It's like, did we underestimate them?
100%, because I was even saying on here, I said, their pre-season, I wonder in the last 15 or 20 minutes will they struggle. The team in green and white were the ones that were struggling in the last 15 minutes.
Like I put it down, like
I'd be asking Paul, I'd be asking who's their strength and conditioning coach, who's their fitness coach. Like Mark said, where they're going. Like they lost 14 players last season. 14 players. And they come back. And I looked through the team sheet thing. If you see the price of the players, 300,000, 400,000.
They spent 8 million.
There was one guy cost $1 million. That was it. All the rest of them were, and nearly all the team, bar a few of them, are Norwegian.
Like everyone was raging about their left back. Said that he was brilliant. He's their right back, and he was only signed in January. The second week of January, he was signed out.
That big number 5, Paul.
Yeah. He's their right back, Mark. And because of injury, he went off the left-hand side, and everyone. Well, he was only signed, Mark, about 3 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean?
Their fitness was through the roof. Like. It was absolutely. I'd hate to meet them. I'd hate to have met them in the middle of the season if that's them in their pre-season.
Like Mark, I said this on the live chat, and it got kind of a mixed reaction, and Stubbsy is saying it as well. Like, does Ange actually know the Arctic Circle style of play? Like, could this have been down to Ange's lack of experience in managing in European football, Mark, in Champions League, Europa League and Conference League? Like, could that have been it, Mark, that his style of play maybe isn't up to that? Like,
it's Bodo Glimt, they were playing, it's not like...
Yeah, but it's another...
It's still a game of football, Paul.
We underestimated, like.
I think I've just said it in the chat there as well. I think Ange did underestimate them, probably even because of that. They're weeks away from their season. They're no stretched amount of players in that, and I think Ange did really. I think he underestimated them.
Just putting up something here. So, Dr. Strain up there said Rogic's lack of recovery speed is crystal clear. It's left a massive hole in the transition, and everybody scrambles to fit in. So is Rogic, like we all know he can put in a killer pass and stuff like that, but is he actually the weak link in this Celtic team?
I think in certain games in that, Rogic, we know, right, I've wrote off Rogic for Celtic, Paul, as you know. I'm delighted with the way he's been playing so far this season. So I'm not going to sit and bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to badmouth them or that, but I just, for the role, as I said, for doing the box-to-box role, getting up and down and up and down, Rogic isn't going to do that. Do you know what I mean? That's no in him. And I think that's what Dr. Strangelove's saying there. That's what Rogic isn't coming back, tracking back, so there's this big hole on that side of the park where he should be covering.
If you're going, Mark, with a team that you know is going to sit back, you need a Rogic in that role.
Aye. If you're playing the majority of your football in the final third, Paul, Rogic is a great player to have on the park. But when you're looking for a bit of a shift in it, a bit of endeavour and work rate to get up and down the park, we know Rogic isn't the man for that.
And in fairness, O'Reilly struggled to get back in that game as well. So all of a sudden you have O'Reilly and Rogic not necessarily getting back. You have McGregor back there himself, and he's probably going.
I think
he just saw a wave of yellow jerseys flying up the pitch at him. Like, I mean, the speed that they transitioned from their full backs getting the ball, like it was their full back got the ball or their centre back, and as soon as they turned, it was straight into the midfield. It was straight into the midfield, and the amount of times you saw Rogic and O'Reilly, and the ball was gone past them.
Yeah, sure. Like their first goal, Terence. If you look at their first goal, Rogic and O'Reilly were just by the halfway line circle, like, and the ball was actually in a goal.
Yeah,
so
and so you can't. If you had, I don't care who you had in midfield. If it wasn't McGregor, if it was Beaton, if it was McCarthy, if it was Gucci, you're going to struggle because you've been left on your Todd, like you've been left on your own. You like. If the boys aren't working back, and that's probably where Hatate would have a much higher work rate than the boys, he would get back. But I think it's like what Mark said. I think no one saw that. No one saw that coming. Everyone was thinking. We were all thinking, oh yeah, look, these are pre-season. Celtic, hopefully Celtic should do a job, and then we're in the middle of the season, we're flying it. They might struggle. I was watching the game kind of on off and work like. And listen to it. And I was going like, I can't believe this. Like,
because I thought we were back in the game at 2-1, like, and then a minute later they go up and scored a third, like, and it was like what happened there? Do you know what I mean? Like,
they kept going for the whole 90 plus minutes. Like, at no stage did they look like tiring. Like
it's true what Mark said. Like, we look like the team that hasn't played in 6 weeks, Mark, didn't we?
Aye, that was Paul. That's the way it looked to me. It was just, as I say, just unbelievable that the performance. To be honest, but that is probably, see, for like all these kind of lesser teams that we talk about in that, such as, for me, honestly, that Bodo Glimt, that's probably one of the best performances I've seen for one of the kind of teams at Celtic Park. Even if it kind of we sneaked it or whatever, Paul, you're saying before,
like,
the actual performance that they put in for, as I said, 6 weeks before their season starts.
As well, sorry, Paul. As well, too, Mark. It's something that has been said on here a few times, and you've definitely said it yourselves a few times. This Bodo Glimt side have set a structure in place to play the same way, regardless of who's there. They lost 14 players. 14 guys came in, and they still kept the exact same way they play.
And so, see the thing, it was like star men that they lost as well. Was that Patrick Berg and people like that?
Well, if you look at their club, which I did, right? They're big believers in what Celtic, Mark, should, like Mark, you're great saying that Celtic should be looking at the Ajax side of things the way they like. When they sell a player, they have a young player to come in to fill that position. That's what mostly what
Bodo Glimt do. Aye.
They sell a player, Mark, and they already have a youngster trained. Fair enough, they go buy players and stuff like that. Like, but their youth system is strong. Yeah, their youth system, Terence, is so strong, like that. They bring in these young players, like, and when they come in, like, that's why I think.
Well, how much did you say that they spent there, Paul? And how much did they bring in?
They brought in about 15. That was to clear the books, Mark. They didn't bring in much either, Mark. You know, was it?
No, I thought that Bergen that would have went for half decent money, Paul.
They had to sell them, Mark, because of the impact of COVID.
Right.
The Norwegian league, so they had to sell players undervalued. Like, you know,
I mean,
what
that Patrick Bergett, that was one of the players I had kind of earmarked that I would like to see Celtic signing.
like that's why I think. Sorry, Terence, go on.
No, their ground only holds 7,500.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, it's unbelievable. And as you said, that Berg fellow only went for 4 million. That's all he went for.
Like that's why I think people on about the best coaches in the world. They look at Guardiola, Mourinho, and things like that. But for me,
Neil Lennon.
The best coach in the world, Mark, is Jurgen Klopp, because he has a system, Mark, at Liverpool where the young players are coming in, Mark, and they're filling the positions where they're actually trained and played in their youth system. They're able to come in to the first team and play that position. And that's an approach that now we're going to see under Ange, because the coach team are playing
The exact same system and way of playing.
Mark, with these smaller clubs should be, and that's why I think Celtic need to look at these clubs like Bodo, Glimt, like look at them more closely, like, and go, look, there they are, a small club, like, but they have a system where they're bringing their young players into the first team and then they're selling them on, making money. Do you know what I mean? Like, for a team like to lose 14 players, like, and people were saying when I hear like on the live chat and on the forum, like, oh, they beat Roma's 6-1, they should be. It's not the same team.
That's exactly. I know, Paul. That's what I was saying as well. Well, people are looking at them for like their group stages wins and things like that. But that's like comparing us. It's like us comparing, although they didn't change the coach, but it's basically like you're comparing Celtic to last season and things like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's a totally different team, Mark. Like they're going into their new season, Mark. Like, which they kind of do every season, is they go in with a new team because they sell their players practically at the end of every season, Mark. They nearly sell their top players to make ends meet, Mark, because the Norwegian League, Mark, isn't.
If only we'd one of these young forward-thinking Norwegian coaches, Paula.
Oh, Jesus, slipped through our hands. Why didn't they? The big question, like, we made the point that, like, Callum McGregor was saying, Terence, like, we created chances, but it seems to be a Celtic thing lately is that we don't take our chances and we're in these positions. But are you confident going into this game, Terence, or would you like us to be out of the Conference League and concentrate league? A lot of people are saying, oh, it's the league that matters and things, but I'm a Celtic fan. I want Celtic to compete in all competitions where I feel Celtic can win, and I honestly thought Celtic would get a good run in this Conference League.
One, I wouldn't be confident that they're going to win over there. I know there's no away goals anymore, but I still wouldn't be confident of them winning, judging on the performance that happened last week and the fact that the other crowd are going to be at home. Yeah, I'm like you, Paul. I'd like Celtic to win in every competition they go into, regardless of what competition it is. And yes, the league is priority, but at the same time, the more Celtic can do in Europe and do better in Europe, the better it's going to be for Celtic down the line. And the other side of it as well is, like, let's not mistake anything here. It's absolutely appalling to think that Celtic haven't got through a knockout stage in 20 years. That's absolutely brutal statistics. Like, consider the teams that they've played. Like, 20 years since they've got out of a knockout game like this. You know, that's a terrible stat to have beside them. Like,
that is really. I didn't know that, Terence. That really is bad when you hear that, isn't it?
Of course, Mark,
2004, Mark.
We're looking too, Mark, as it's an artificial pitch that they played on, but it's a state of the art.
Aye.
Artificial pitch. This, like, I was reading about this, like, and
so did I, Paul. I looked up. I was reading about it. I'm not saying it'll not be a factor, but I don't think we're not going up to play on a living. It's not a Livingston, but Iraqi's picture that.
It's 3 yards smaller in width than Celtic Park, but it's the same lengthwise. Do you get me? It's the same length, but 3 yards smaller in width. Like, it's not going to make much of a difference, I don't think, Mark. But like, I don't think this match should be an excuse for Celtic not to turn up as we do in the Livingston pitch and stuff like you just said, Mark. This is practically grass. It has rubber pellets on it. It's rubber. It's practically grass, Mark.
I think it's that kind of top-notch kind of stuff, Paul. But I think Celtic can go there and win. I'm not saying we'll get through, Beating them with a clear 3 goals is going to be a big ask, but I could see it going to extra time, to be honest.
You could see, looking at the first leg, the starting lineup was Hart, Jovanovic, Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor, Callum McGregor, O'Reilly, Abada, Rogic, Jota and Maeda. The formation, what I kind of looked at was 4-2-3-1. Alright, so who starts and who drops out? I think it was one of the worst games I saw Taylor played in a long time. I think either Radisson comes in or Ivanovic steps over or Ivanovic stays in the right and Scales comes over, but I think they'll exploit Ivanovic again, and I think we need height in that back line. Mark?
Oh, aye, Paul. So, obviously, we've spoken about that's one of the main concerns in the defence. We need to try and get some height in there. Scales is the obvious choice.
You're looking at Scales, Mark.
The people keep going on about bringing Julian back and that. I can't remember Julian being this big dominant centre half.
He struggled, Mark, against the lad Von Livingston that time. Sure, he struggled against him. He had a horrible game against him.
Dykes,
horrible game against him.
We stuck there, Paul. We've said for months, even when Julian's been injured, he doesn't seem to fancy the physical side of the game. When we're saying there, he comes up against Lyndon Dykes.
Would you risk Julian Mark on an artificial?
No, probably. But saying that, Paul, we've just said it's one of the best kind of ranges, so maybe. But I don't think Julian's the answer to the problem.
No,
I think we're needing somebody like a big Vidic kind of character, Paul. See, like the manager, Vidic, a big hard.
Short term, Mark, what we have. Right, we'll just look at the short term what we have and use what we have and I think Scales, and this is not me just saying Scales, no, because I'm Irish and stuff like that, but I do think Scales needs a good run of games, Mark, to actually show us what he can do against physical teams.
Even Paul as well. I mean, just seeing it
week in and week out, and I've seen him in Champions League qualifiers, Europa League qualifiers against teams like Bodo Glimt, Mark, who play a physical game, Mark, because they're not well-known European teams. They're going to be tough teams to play against, and he handled himself well, and he was scoring goals in these leagues, Mark. You get me?
Aye, definitely. But Paul, I mean, you tell me that. Maybe I've picked up wrong, but I'm sure that you said that he can play at centre half as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So why not even move him in one thing?
His preferred position, the centre half, but that's where he started his career, man. Centre half. He was playing there with Sligo.
And he probably only get moved out to left back, Paul, because he's speed. Because he's speed. You don't get many guys his size that are quick. Do you know what I mean?
When he moved to Shamrock Rovers, their normal left back was hit with injury, and Shamrock Rovers play the wing back, wingers back, the left wing back. So they had no option but to put Scales in there, and because the manager of Shamrock Rovers was so impressed by Scales' speed and his ball control, Scales became his number one left-sided player. And that's how it actually came about. Like Scales, Mark, was a Gaelic footballer in his youth. He played Gaelic football as well. So this fella is well used to the high balls up in the air. Do you get me? Do you know what I mean?
He's a bit of toughness, a bit of that kind of tenacity about him for doing that. I'd even give Scales a maybe. I'm not saying do it against Bodo Glimt or that, but why not give him a
top game, Mark?
Give him a try out at centre half.
I think as well though, Mark. Sorry, Paul. I think as well though, Mark. One of the very important things that they have to do for this Bodo Glimt is yes, the defence, but they need to get protection in front of the defence.
That's what I'm saying.
There's been very little of that in the last few games.
That's what I'm saying. It's like looking at the formation, who drops out,
Where would you start in Team B, Paul? Go to you first, and then Terence can give his.
I'd go Hart anyway. My formation would be a 4-2-3-1. Right, so I'll go Hart. I'll go Jovanovic, Vickers, Starfelt, and I put Scales in there. I'll have McGregor, Beaton, then Abada, O'Reilly to the centre with Yassa and Giamarcus up front. I think Giamarcus has to play, considering the way he runs and the way he can hold up the ball for us. I don't think these type of games suit Mida, because we don't play. I think he's too light for. Did you get me, Mark? I know.
Maida, he never stopped the other night, Paul, but he never really done much, did he?
Done much, yeah. Do you know what I mean? I think we need a player, Mark, Marcus, who will get the ball, Mark, and who will be able to hold up that ball.
That's 100%, Paul. Start with Giacomakis on Thursday. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I say Maida, he done a lot of running, he put in a good shift, but he never, no effectiveness whatsoever.
I saw on Twitter there the other day, people giving Mahida slack, he's got, was it 3-4 goals? Like people, Marcus, go back to what you say, Mahida so far has nearly played 12 months of football non-stop. No break. People have to take that into consideration as well, Mark. That this guy.
None of the Japanese boys have had any break. Well, obviously Kyogo has with his injury and that.
But you think of the running, Mark, that he's doing, you know what I mean? What if he does sign next year, Mark, and with a proper rest during the summer, what Mahida can be? Do you know what I mean?
Paul, I was really excited about Maida saying.
Even Hayase looks tired, Mark.
He's not looked the same player. I mean, he came in and he was on fire for the first few games, but he's kind of dropped down a wee bit in that. As you're saying, Paul, the last couple of games.
You highlighted that, Terence. Recently, the Hayase looked tired in the games for a while.
Yeah, I thought that, but it's funny because, Paul, if you listen to Ange kind of goes, he's not up to full fitness yet. You're kind of going but he looks hanging to me, and naturally enough,
that he won't be up to full scratch.
Yeah, but it's like you're saying, it's no coincidence that Kyogo got injured with all the football he's been playing, and Hatate has looked in some of the games. He has looked very, very tired, but I keep going back to this is where I think Ange needs to maybe look and chop and change. The team you named there, Paul. I'd agree with it. The only one I'd change, just out of curiosity, I'd put Gucci in if he's fit to see how he play.
That's it. I definitely put Gucci in if he's fit instead of Isa.
I'd put Gucci in if he's fit to play this week. I'd put him in with McGregor just in front of him, and obviously Jota, Abada, Giacomakis, and start probably O'Reilly, and then. But what I would be saying is, just to make sure if someone starts to look lazy, just change him.
Take him off. Exactly, Terence. We have the subs though. Do you know what I mean? We have the subs.
Well, not only do we have the subs, Paul, but we have quality subs, which is the big side of it. But I definitely give Gucci a run in this game because you want Celtic to go through 100%. But if they don't, okay, you'll be disappointed. But it's it is what it is. I wouldn't want to be starting him in a league game that you're not sure of, and then all of a sudden you're struggling.
But this is at the moment, you can think that this actually could be, because considering the scoreline, it'd be an ideal game to throw Gucci in there, and we see, do you know what I mean?
100%. You'll see what he can do, because in fairness, their midfield overran our midfield the last day. So it'd be very interesting to see him. As I said, the only time we got to see him was the Alloa game before the Karate Kid came flying in from the side to take him out. And other than that, he's obviously just back from injury. But I'd like to see him. I think it'd be a good game to start him and see how he goes, because the problem is all the games we have.
He's not registered, Terence. He's not registered.
Oh, he's not registered, isn't he?
William just said it there. I think he was actually left out. You're right there with him now. He was left out. So Beaton, I think, is the natural.
Okay, well, fair enough then.
Would you?
That's 10 minutes of a wasted conversation there, isn't it? I knew that too.
Would you go?
Thank you very much, Matthew Knobhead.
That Terence, so that lineup that I kind of said there. So would you kind of go similar to that?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, pretty much it.
Well, again, Paul, you're kind of changing things with putting in the two man in the midfield.
But that's what he did Mark, against Bovril in the first leg. O'Reilly was next to McGregor. He did a 4-2-3-1. That was the starting lineup that came out, the formation 4-2-3-1. That's what he went. O'Reilly was actually playing in front of McGregor, but O'Reilly was kind of the midfielder going box to box. So I'm saying if Bison's in there, McGregor will be able to do that role that O'Reilly was supposed to do. Do you get me?
Aye. I'd even put a bit McCarthy in there then.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, whoever is McCarthy or Bison, but we need a defensive midfielder in there.
Because McCarthy, he needs to get his finger out as well, but McCarthy's a better all-round player than he's a better all-round player than Beaton. Do you know what I mean? I think see what you're saying, Paul. If it was going to go with the two in there, for me, McCarthy, a fit McCarthy would be the ideal. Do you get what I mean? Because he as you say, he's a better passer than the ball, Beaton in that. So it would maybe help it be a wee bit more kind of rounded. Do you know what I mean?
But at the same time, who's been playing the better football? Beaton. You know, he's been the more impressive. But I understand your point, Mark. But McCarthy, apart the St. Johnson game is one of the only games I can think of. Whereas Beaton, before he came out of the team, was very, very impressive in the games he played.
Like, I can't just understand why Beaton has come out. Like, when Beaton was in the team, where was McGregor playing?
He was playing. He was up. McGregor was like your kind of number 10 back then, wasn't he? Playing kind of number 10.
And who's the number 10 now? So when McGregor.
But we don't do it, Paul. That's it, Paul. When if you're playing like, we don't have a number 10 unless we go with the 4-2-3-1.
Is that why? Is that so, Mark? Is why we're losing these midfield battles because we don't have that number 10.
No,
we don't have that extra man in the midfield to slip back and stuff like that, like McGregor does.
But all you're doing, Paul, is a man falling back, and all you're doing is going to like a 4-3-3 then, which is what Ange has been playing.
You know, one thing I think Ange has to do as well, Terence, Mark, I know you didn't, but I found Yasa a bit ineffective on the right-hand side yesterday, I think, on the left-hand side, I think. When Abada came on, it changed that whole dimension of that side of the game. I think we know that Yasa's main position's on the right, and he looked more confident on the right. Yet, the left. But he looked very uncomfortable in the first half.
Yeah, well, it's you know what I mean. It's like certain players, Paul. They just can't. They find one side more awkward than the other. You know what I mean? And if Jota's preferable side is the left, then you just need to play him on the left. It's fine saying, oh, he can play on the right as well, but that's like saying Kyogo can play on the left side and can play on the left wing as well. He can, but how effective is he? Not very, from the few games we've seen him play there. Whereas, like, if Jota's preferred position is the left side, then you need to play him on the left side. If it means that you have to leave someone out, then so be it. But ideally, Jota on the left, Abada on the right have been the two mainstays going all along the season. So I mean, if it isn't broke,
do I think why change it? Like, yeah, Mark. So the big question is, Mark, before we go on, can Celtic turn this wrong, considering we saw them create chances, and with the way Gianmarcus is playing, Mark, and we're getting the balls into the box, and we hoping that he'll be in there, Mark. Can they turn it around?
I think they can, Paul. I'm not saying I think they will, but I think they can. If Celtic turn up and play the way we know that they can play, Paul, we should be capable of beating them by 2 goals at least. That's what I said earlier on. It wouldn't surprise me if this ended up going to extra time on Thursday night. But I think we can do it. I don't think it's out of our reach as much as some people are saying. And these people are saying, oh, I hope we get and things like that because we need to concentrate in the league. No, I want Celtic to win every single game they play in, Paul. Do you know what I mean?
Mark, like, if you look at the teams, I mean, in the Conference League, Mark, like Celtic are one of the best teams in there. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, as I said, Paul, when I was going on about how easy I thought this game, not easy, how comfortable I thought this game, like Thursdays there, was going to be. A couple of days before that, we were all in the forum talking about how we could win this and how we could get a good run in it, and it'd be great to get it would be great to get Leicester in the final. And then, I mean, see if Celtic go out to this kind, go out of these two legs, Paul. This will be for me. This will be one of the biggest kind of mess ups in Celtic, even recent history, kind of thing in Europe.
Yeah, I think, Mark. I think like it's like people are saying like Bobo Glimt were a good team and stuff like that. Like, fair enough, they're a good team. They were well organised. Like, but these players have only been together, Mark, 6 to 8 weeks. Do you know what I mean? You know, like
played a couple of friendly games, then rocked up at Parkhead and rocked up at Celtic Park and beat us.
Well, and it could have been a lot more, Mark. To be honest, like the way
Celtic had Celtic with their pants.
You know, like, do you think, Terence? Do you think Celtic can turn this around? Then?
I'm a bit like Mark there tonight. I think Celtic can score, Paul. But the problem is at the minute, can they keep a clean sheet? If you were to answer me that, I'd say no. I can see Celtic conceding. That's the problem.
I think as well, key to this time, Mark, like Celtic need to score early.
I think if Celtic can get a goal in the first kind of 10-15 minutes,
and see how they handle it then, like, you know what I mean, and then like it's game on then, really, Mark, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You know, I think that third goal was a real sucker punch, really, Mark. When we got 2-1, we were saying, right, 2-1, like we can take that back to Norway and kind of build on that, like, but the third goal, right, was really a sucker punch to Celtic, wasn't it? It just
many times have we done that this season ourselves, Paul. Straight for low start, conceding a goal, we've kicked off and went straight up the park and scored again. It's like, see if you play FIFA, it's a glitch on the FIFA game, Paul. See if you lose a goal on that, there's a kind of something in it that kind of slows down the other team. And you've got right after you kick off again, you've got kind of 20 seconds that you can kind of score a goal.
Like
I was talking about that with
similarities, Mark, like what you're saying there, like the way they punished us was kind of the way we punished teams in Scotland. When we go down 1-0, we came back with a goal straight away. You know what I mean?
It's a kind of we've conceded, and a lot of teams like their head will get down and kind of thing, but if you're scoring a goal, you're in a wee bit of a high, and maybe your full concentration's not in the game. So maybe this is something that Ange just kind of drilled into players. Look, we've spoke about how quickly the ball comes into play in that, Paul. So maybe this is something that Ange is kind of using as well, about, look, straight for kick-off, just try and get up that part and get a goal, because they'll kind of still be resting their laurels, their wee heart will be beating a wee bit faster. Do you get what I mean? And things like that, maybe a bit vulnerable.
Will we kind of? I'm just throwing out there. Like I don't know much about Bobo Glimt, but they're 3-1 leg, Mark. Do you think maybe we might see a defensive approach by them, or will they go up attackers the way they did?
I think they'll just play the exact same way as they played the other night. I think maybe. Well, I don't know much about them either, Paul, but I think maybe their manager's a bit like Ange. It's like that's the way. That's the way we play football. No matter kind of who we're playing, that's the way we're going to approach the game.
Of course, look, we'll be back again on Thursday night, because the kick-off is an early kick-off. We'll be back on Thursday night for a match reaction with myself and Mark.
That time up already? At 8:30? I didn't think that was as late as that, but...
Terence, if you're around Thursday night, boy, you're more than welcome to join us. Thanks to Terence for joining us. Thanks to you lads and the live chat. It's always great for you to give your feedback to us and the topics we talk about, and get your suggestions discussed as well. Terence, want to say anything before we go about?
No, just as usual. Thanks very much for everything, lads. Always enjoyable. I hope roll on Thursday, and hopefully it is talking about a victory in Celtic through to the next round.
Is Welsh going to Norway? Do we know?
I don't know, we'll have to find out when we get him on the podcast.
We can't call him again if he is, aye. Aye.
Jeez. You know, we brought up impersonal data, like recording people that they don't know they're live in air.
I know. How does that keep popping up? Just so everybody in the chat knows that. We get warnings popping up saying we need to tell you this has been recorded and will be broadcast. I don't know why. It's just a recent thing. It just seems to have started in it, Paul. Do you know see it terms on the Skpe page? No.
No, not in the one I have. No, I've only just got obviously shows your Paul's name, my name, and your kind of.
Well, it's like see, like when I phoned Paul just at the start before we go near and that, this pops up. So I thought maybe you were seeing it as well, just so you need to tell people.
It just says on top. It says Ed is using a device that could record or broadcast.
Yeah, that's new. That's new of the personal data.
That's always on my phone, no? That's always been. Yeah, it's always been on my phone. And then it says underneath it says Ed is a shady bollocks.
Maybe me and you, Mark, need to get glasses. So that's been on the channel. We're doing this since February. We haven't even saw that till the other day. Mark, we close the show.
Right, thanks very much, Paul. Terence, brilliant. Thanks very much for coming on again. Everybody who joins the live chat, I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, if you know, hit the like button if you know how to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and if you know how to leave a comment, please do, because it helps us get up the algorithm on YouTube. Thanks very much, lads. Hail, good night, and God bless.